Welcome to the session. My name is Mark Fitton. I'm part of the Warehouse Management Systems Development and Management team, and I'll be your moderator today. But this webinar is actually part of the Oracle at Oracle series, where you'll have the opportunity to hear from the executive team that's reimagining Oracle. This is the series where we share insights from our own journey to the cloud, and we demonstrate how we're using these solutions to power our business needs, but also how we're using them to enable exceptional customer and employee experiences. And then we'll share with you what we've learned so far, and we do that in hopes that you could do the same. So let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. Over the next 45 minutes, today we're going to hear about how Oracle runs warehouse management on Oracle Autonomous Database. And I am pleased to hand it over to our host, Diego Pantoja-Navajas. He is the founder of Logfire, and he is the vice president of cloud development. So, hey, Diego, how's it going? Welcome aboard.
Hey, Mark, how are you? Hi, everybody.
Hey, great. I'll go ahead and pass it over to you.
Thank you. Welcome and thank you for joining. My name, as Mark said, is Diego Pantoja-Navajas. I am the founder of Logfire and now the vice president of WMS Cloud development here at Oracle. We're going to talk a little bit about logistics in 2020, about how Logfire, now Oracle WMS Cloud, migrated its cloud-native mission-critical SaaS application to the Oracle Cloud infrastructure and move all its AWS and Rackspace PostgreSQL databases to the Oracle Autonomous Transactional Processing database. And really, we did that because we were looking at better performance, higher elasticity, and improved security and reduced TCO for our application and for our customers. So I'm so glad you could join today's session, and I hope you are staying safe in these disruptive times. And speaking about disruptive times, let's talk about how you can build resiliency into your warehouse management and logistics execution solutions. So why is logistics such a difficult challenge for organizations to wrap their arms around? And one reason is the increase in the complexity in today's supply chain. And today's supply chains were very linear. In the past, the traditional supply chains were very linear, as you can see in this slide. And it was a push-based model. Organizations used to build the products they thought customers will buy. Products were pushed into the channels for sale and end consumer to buy them. And that really created a lot of a process in the supply chain where typically the only process that you had was to go to that endpoint to be able to get the process correct. So that has changed significantly over the years, and that linear supply chain now is part of the past. And now we are going to see that that complexity in terms of supply chains now is really what we're going to discuss is how many companies or how companies are going to now face the complexities that we are seeing in the market. They need to be more agile against their competitors. Also, there has to be a lot of change in consumer behaviors. And also we need to make sure that things like a consumer demand, geopolitical trends, and also how we expand into different markets are also going to be playing part of this change in supply chains, correct? We cannot continue building or running these complex supply chains with systems that are hosted on premises. We all know that those models were very costly. We know that gave very little agility to our customers to move into different models, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So it's really a future-ready enterprise is the one that has the ability to change with shifting market dynamics, and that's very important. We need to be ready to be more competitive in today's world. So today's supply chains need to be really thinking about how we're going to place the consumer at the center of our networks. And we saw on the first slide how we move from a push-based model, and that has been replaced with a pull-based model, or demand-driven supply chain operations. So basically what it means that we make and deliver only the products that the customers want wherever they want, correct? So this has created multiple complexities in the supply chain networks because now we have multiple ways on delivering those products, and we need to make sure that those channels keep open and in an agile way so we can fulfill those customer orders on time. So, you know, we talk about kitting, we talk about slotting, we talk about shipping, and all of those points are very nice, correct? But at the same time, the warehouses of the future or the logistics components of the future will continue to shave operational costs, will driven for accelerating cycle times, connect businesses, make sure the data is intelligent, and the flow of that data is going to help giving us enough inventory visibility at all times so we can drive that change and we can drive the supply chains in the future. So this is very important, the point that I just made about data, because there's a very important reason why we made very significant changes to our infrastructure, very significant changes to our technology stack, so we could have a more intelligent data. And we're expanding into multiple demand and fulfillment channels. And, you know, we talk about customers now have multiple ways to buy products. We all know that. But at the same time, we also know that the fulfillment complexities are also changing, correct? So we have, like I said, multiple models. You know, the time to market and the pressure and mass customization of those products is also playing a big role. In many industries, the product life cycles continues to shrink. In the fashion industry, you know, as you guys know, we have multiple seasons. So we introducing more products every season. We need to get those products into different channels as the consumer behavior change. The lifespans of those products also get shorter because now we need to replace the ongoing products with the new products and generate revenue and margin, and that creates a lot of pressure to supply chains globally, correct? So customer experience and expectations are also changing. The power, like I said, have shifted to the consumer and the end consumer. So now we need to have our products available everywhere. We now are being able to see costs. Also, we can compare costs against different vendors. And also we understand what are the different delivery options that we have as a consumer. So that also is putting more pressure. So it's a B2C user experience that is driving expectations for a B2B world. So that's very important to consider as we move forward. Okay. And of course, you know, in every area of our lives and political environment and technology changes are happening. We know that, I mentioned that a couple of minutes ago, and we can't possibly predict what causes are going to happen that are going to generate additional demand shocks in supply chain disruptions like we saw in 2020 when COVID-19 hit all markets globally, correct? Paper products had nothing to do with COVID-19, but the demand shock was not anticipated, and the result that we saw was empty shelves for about 3-4 months at the beginning of the pandemic. There was a lot of emotions based on fear, not on any scientific or health-related issue. We just thought that, you know, we need paper towels. So to this date, I personally cannot explain why this happened, but it did. And now I know that it will happen again if some of these disruptions happen in the market. But we need to be better prepared. And I think that a lot of what we're doing here at Oracle is very relevant as we are running our applications and we're introducing AI and ML capabilities that are giving us ways to understand the data, as I mentioned before, the data model that is important to understand as we add more variables into the equation that makes the complexities and understanding that data much better. So we're doing all that because we definitely want to be able to avoid these shortages again in the future. And I'll explain that a little bit ahead in the next couple of slides, okay? So likewise, business model changed in 2020, which added more pressure to global supply chains. Legacy supply chains, processes and technologies were, as you guys know, severely challenged. And like I said, by the change to a consumer-centric supply chain and overall business model we saw in 2020, we need to take in considerations that we expanded the channels. Companies needed to find that specific channel so they can continue being in business. Many companies have different distributions models, different systems. Some of those systems were not ready for an e-commerce model, or were not ready to create really inventory visibility to fulfill in different areas of the city or country or regions. And that was a problem that companies knew. And as we know, many companies knew that their IT infrastructure was not really ready for an event like the one that we had last year. So definitely 2020 was a year that we all know nothing can ever be the same after last year. And now we need to continue being prepared for the future so we can avoid some of these disruptions again and be ready for that. So with those business model changes, supply chains also saw some key industries like the computer chip shortage being affected. And not only that, correct, as you start reading the news, you can see the rubber industry, the wood industry, even ketchup is being disrupted in today's market. The ongoing, and going back into this computer chip shortage, this is now expected to cost the global automotive industry about $110 billion in revenue in this year. So, and the pandemic induced the chip crisis because every single event now is adding into this lack of chips that we need to be able to continue producing cars or other electric devices that we use now in our houses, correct? So the origin of this was basically during the COVID pandemic, and really had a lot of other effects in different sectors as consumer electronics and others, like I said before. So we expect to see a large of this impact hit as we saw so far in the first half of this year. But we also expect that progressively we're going to get better and better results in the second half of the year, and then going into 2022 as some of these situations will start reducing. Also, furthermore, we saw issues related to aging infrastructure created because of issues that we saw in our maritime global infrastructure. Unfortunately, we don't run supply chains in the matrix, and we run the supply chains in the real world. And unfortunately, that real world, many of the routes that we use in today's world have been built in the 80s, 50s. So these variables now need to be considered when we run an our AI and ML algorithms to understand better how these anomalies are going to hit our supply chains. So in other words, to put it simple, now we need to make sure that every single aspect, both man-made created or environmental created situations and disruptions are part of the equations that we need to add and continue evaluating on an ongoing basis, correct? Also talking about cybersecurity issues, we learned a couple of weeks ago that not paying attention to cybersecurity issues has the potential to bring a country to its knees, basically. And all these issues just explain how much multiple logistics and fulfillment channels and models can be disrupted. And the point that we need to make here is that we need to have highly elastic environments that can process a lot of this data, which we can understand how are we going to be able to react as a company in our supply chains, and work and collaborate with our partners and vendors as well. So We also saw some of these examples, correct? And we see how the three complexities, the three C's in terms of complexities, competition, and changing business models. So really the recommendations here is to, in order to accelerate your supply chain and the digitalization of your supply chain, you really need to evaluate vendors that can provide a lot of technology in terms of emerging technologies, be able to tackle the complexities that we're seeing today, and being able to be provide, going back to what I said, the different changing the business model, be able to provide solutions for that. And also there are other variables that like cybersecurity and others that I just mentioned before. So in 2020, really we saw that the supply chain resiliency was very important. And most important is that most supply chain professionals will agree that this response to making this digitalization is happening. And now because of 2020 is happening rapidly. And a lot of the companies that have survived last year are really taking a lot of good measures to continue moving forward and continue innovating and bringing those technologies that they need to address both their current challenges and also to allow them to re-engineer their futures. So at the end of the day, you know, no matter all the chaos that we see in supply chain, I think what it matters and what it matters the most is that the future in any situation that we're putting against, consumers will want their orders at the time that they want it, at the place that they want. So we need to make sure that that supply chain is resilient. So we need to make sure that we adapt to it and our products will be delivered on time as we expect. So it's important that when it comes to supply chain, achieving the perfect delivery on an on-time and manner is important. So we talk about the perfect orders and the 7 riders of logistics, correct? We talk about the right customers, right products, right time, right place, right conditions, right quantity, and right cost. And all that is important because, again, these are elements that has to be considered. And for that, it's not anymore, like I said before, a linear supply chain. It's a very complex supply chain driven by our consumer behavior. So we need to be ready to be able to respond to each of these 7 rights of logistics. And also, at the same time, in order to achieve those perfect orders, we need to talk about volatility in supply chain and demand. We need to talk about the order processing and complexity, the dynamic trading and conditions that we see with external factors. So all these are very important that we need to consider when we run our supply chains. And the business capabilities, you know, as we said before, the market is changing at a very fast pace. And also as we talk with different CIOs or CEOs, we know that their ability to respond to these changes is not at the same rate as they're seeing the changes, and they need to be competitive. So they see a performance gap out there, and that performance gap needs to be addressed with rapid implementations, high availability of systems, adaptability, and also to be able to maintain that profitability in the fulfillment models that we see there. So changes in consumer behavior will continue to cause disruptions in business. So we need to make sure that we understand the data that we're seeing from the markets so we can adapt to that demand much faster. And yes, we have a small window of time to really adapt to that and see what's happening. Also, we need to make sure that the warehouses of the future can respond, and then we need to invest in technology and reduce warehouse costs. Also, there are many factors, labor factors that are taken in consideration, automations and others that are also making that investment very important as we can reduce some of those inefficiencies in the warehouse as well. So we need to make sure that we're more aggressive in our investments in terms of logistics and the supply chain networks as well. So With all that being said, let me tell you about our migration timeline and story, and how this journey started. So back in Open World 2018, we had the opportunity to listen the announcement about the autonomous database release, and it was very fascinating. That was exactly what we needed as a mission critical application, and I will explain more in detail why. But after listening the announcement, our team and I decided that we needed to make the migration to that new database. And then, of course, and we knew that in our roadmap, we needed to migrate to the Oracle Gen 2 infrastructure. And also, that was a decision that provided us a lot of benefits, and you will hear some of those benefits today. So in July of 2020, we moved all our infrastructure and first customers to OCI and autonomous database. In March of 2020, we completed the migration. We closed all our legacy data centers at the same time. And then since then, we saw an expansion on the OCI global regions, and also an expansion in our customer needs. And also that was the time, as you remember, that the pandemic really started to hit the major markets. So it's important that we did that specific migration at the same time. We could have done it faster, but because taking in consideration multiple customer needs, we were able to pace it to a point where we were ready for of course, we didn't know the pandemic was coming, but we were ready for that. So talking about our migration to the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Gen 2 and the Oracle Autonomous Database, let me tell you a little bit about that. Before we got acquired by Oracle, we had a very sophisticated cloud native architecture. And in today's customer-centric world, organizations need to find need to address and find how they're going to be able to work on a more agile way, personalize their requirements, be able to meet our customer needs, and really be customer-centric. And we did that, but that was really not enough for what we wanted as a mission-critical SaaS application. And that's why we knew that our journey to migrate to the Oracle infrastructure and move all our AWS and Rackspace PostgreSQL databases to Oracle Autonomous Database was something that we needed to do. And we were looking better performance, higher elasticity, improve our security, and reduce TCO. So that was a very fascinating journey for us. I apologize. So here is the high-level technical architecture on the Oracle WMS Cloud. So now, what we're excited about, about this new architecture and improved architecture that we have now, is that customers can access our database, and we have better resiliency. Oracle offers multiple layers of availability and protection, including unique capabilities like Oracle Real Application Clusters for databases. We have a better policy in terms of backups. We've been able to automate and replicate and also encrypt objects across multiple fault domains, provide high durability and data security for our customers' data, and going back to the data, which is very important, and being able to take advantage of multiple active monitoring and self-healing processes that we have with the Oracle Autonomous Database. So that has been really relevant for us. The connectivity and the fast connectivity that we see now is important as well. We see multiple benefits with that. Of course, OCI extend this concept of connectivity between ADs as well. So we see a lot of speed and high-speed connectivity across the network. And also, we want to highlight that the security is very important. OCI is secure by design. with the next generation of cloud infrastructure, and really it's helping us to also manage autonomously the data for our customers, and also reduce any sort of risks that we can see. Correct. One of the things that we were very excited about is the design, that you utilize built-in tenant isolation for more private access. And also that isolation is helping to control better the data for our customers. And that's helping us at the same time that no humans are involved when it comes to managing and updating and the database and the security layers that we need for our customers. So that's very fascinating for us, and we're very excited to see that. Also, we have now we're running our application in multiple Oracle Gen 2 data centers. We're live in Phoenix, Ashburn, London, Frankfurt, Dubai, and we're expanding to multiple other data centers around the world. And this is great. We have live DR and disaster recovery in different locations. The application code is the same. The data is sent from production to the DR sites. The accessibility to customers to read-only mode from application is minimal. We see this high availability across the network and the resiliency that we wanted. So we're very excited to see that organizations can use OCI to support this great infrastructure, and really is helping us to, and it was a great decision for us to migrate from our old architecture and infrastructure to the Oracle Gen 2 and the Oracle Autonomous Database. So, and also Oracle Gen 2 global footprint is phenomenal. So we have a lot of room to grow, like I showed you in the previous slide. So that's what we're working on in terms of our expansion, and also has helped us a lot in terms of how we're going to manage the different releases. So one point that I want to mention before our migration to the Oracle Gen 2 and infrastructure and the Oracle Autonomous Database, we used to handle 3 releases per year. Now we have 4 releases, and that 4 release is very important because we have a lot of retail customers, and usually you don't make any changes during their high season. But as our customers have learned with the Oracle Gen 2 and the Oracle Autonomous Database, those migrations, those updates, not upgrades, updates have been seamless. And now we can offer a zero downtime for quarterly updates, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, and also for any sort of patch bundling or patch processing that we need to do for our application. So really this eliminates risks and gives the opportunity to give our customers the latest and greatest in terms of functionality, security, scalability, and all the other points that I mentioned before. And we're very excited because now in our pod we can manage in one single pod or one single instance multiple customers. We're a multi-tenant cloud application, and also that give us the ability to update customers in a different way. So what I mean by that is that not all customers need to be updated at the same time. We can work with them and their business needs, and that's really good. Of course, there are customers that are, for example, going into a high season, or customers that are in different industries and that will need to go and be updated at the same time. But really, this gives us the flexibility that we want and our customers demand. So that's really great. Also, one thing that is very important is we are zero downtime, and those were some of the benefits that we were able to achieve with the migration to the Oracle Gen 2 and the Oracle Autonomous Database. Now our application is zero downtime, and for patches, and both for our release cycles and our quarterly release cycles. So on average, and this is a very exciting KPI, on average, our customers are being migrated in less than 2.5 minutes. So it's really important that we keep this momentum. Customers are really getting benefit of that. So talking more about the Oracle Autonomous Database, is really, it's not just a database, correct? It's the combination of infrastructure, the database, and AI and machine learning components, correct? So the first thing that I needed to understand also when I was going through this process of the migration is that is different to have automated versus autonomous, very different. A process for database backup, failover, resizing can be accomplished automatically. It's still not autonomous. If a database administrator must respond to an alert, make decisions, or click a button to solve or tune the application, is definitely not autonomous. In contrast, what we have learned with the Oracle Autonomous Database is that really combines the agility of the cloud with the intelligence of responsiveness that we need to be adaptive and a great capabilities for machine learning and AI. So that really, it's very important. So the self-resiliency to minimize any sort of human labor associated or can bring any human error to and can provide and ensure data safety and optimal performance is really what is the Oracle Autonomous Database. Really, it has been such a major positive change for our application. The monitoring, the managing, the cloning, the replication of the databases, like I explained before, all those are really helping us to continue to be leaders in the market for a warehouse management system, and also to provide a lot of efficiencies for our customers. So we're very excited to see that. So, we saw workloads such as data warehousing, analytics, transactional processing, how we can run better in multiple aspects, low latency. We can provide neat JSON for documentation data in memory ingest. So there are so many benefits that you can see under the hood for the Oracle Autonomous Database, that it was really something that we knew we wanted to move into it as soon as possible, as soon as it was available for us to do it. And that benefit becomes every time, we're as the world becomes more and more connected, and as we are eliminating a lot of the old system, all on-prem systems, and we're moving more into this digital world, running applications in the Oracle Autonomous Database has a lot of benefits. And yeah, so we need to be connected, and as we are more connected, of course, there are more cyber threats. So we also were very key to make sure that we're very excited to see all the different aspects of the security levels that the Oracle Autonomous Database will bring us. So the security teams is all the time, and the Autonomous Database is really helping to prevent any attack that we can get in our system. So that's very important. So we're very happy that the benefits in terms of volume. So for example, one KPI that I would like to share, since we made that migration last year, our customers, not us, our customers actually were expanded to 5 billion items, 5 billion LPNs shipped last year. So that was a huge benefit on that we saw in growth. We saw a 50% more faster processing times in our order. We saw increase in different industries that before were not allowed for us, just for multiple reasons. Of course, and also, we saw average sizing of the database being very relevant, the amount of active sessions that we're handling, and of course, the large database sizes that we at the same time can see. So not small volumes, 5 terabytes is a very large transactional database, and we were able to see that. So those volumes that I was saying before, we can see that here in the year-over-year shipping volumes, correct? Since we made that migration, like I explained before, in March, and also if you see the blue line, which is 2020, that's exactly what happened last year with the world, correct? We saw a very big dip in April, and then a huge growth after that. And as you can see, the shipping volumes after May of last year were significantly. Actually, we were running on any given day, we were running numbers that we used to see on a high season days like Black Friday or Cyber Monday, or Mother's Day or Father's Day, or so it was great to see that growth. For us, that growth, and for our customers, that was equal to more than 2,000 new warehouses that we saw open last year. And as you can see in 2021 with the green color, sorry, and the line, those volumes continue to increase. You will also see a little bit dip in January, February, because that's the high season for multiple industries. But again, we're seeing tremendous growth and much higher volumes than we saw before. So I talk about a lot of AI and ML, and that for warehouse management application, that's very important. So we really leverage the AI and ML capabilities from the Oracle Autonomous Database. And we were also able to build very complex algorithms to be able to predict peak hours for our distribution centers. We were able to detect unusual workforce events. We were able to provide now better usability of space, better slot inventory, and even improving efficiencies from the warehouse. So we're taking advantage of the AI ML and the data processing. So that's very important. And for us to migrate to the Oracle Autonomous Database and the Oracle OCI Gen 2 as a true cloud SaaS application was really, it didn't require a lot of effort. And it's something that definitely every single developer out there in the world needs to consider, because you will definitely see the benefits as you migrate to this application and to this service and this infrastructure. So for us in supply chain, it's very important that we're using those components that the Oracle Autonomous Database brings in terms of AI and ML. We need to predict better our customer business KPIs. We need to provide that information so we can create more. Of SCM metrics for them that is going to help them to understand better the data aggregation. We're also going to help them understand those anomalies that we saw at the beginning of the presentation. We also going to help them to predict better what's going to happen if you run a different model versus another model, or if you take in consideration this variable versus the other, or if your shipments are coming through the Suez Canal, but now you are going to use a different route going through Africa. And what are you going to do to prescribe some actions about how you're going to recommend and identify the root cause of that problem, so we can do better forecasts in the future. So all of that is very important when you run a very complex supply chain environment like we do, which data is analyzed in a real-time basis. So this has helped us a lot also to understand and provide better visibility to our customers, and provide more and better predictive analytics also for them. So here is, for example, on the left we're evaluating orders that just happened and how we process those orders. On the right is orders that will be executed or fulfilled in the future. So in that way, we can understand which ones will be done on time, or what resources do we need to be able to make that order and that perfect order be delivered on time, as we spoke at the beginning of the presentation. So all those elements are really important. Also, with AI and ML, like I explained before, now we can understand the bottlenecks that we're seeing in different in the warehouse. We can understand better the different warehouse traffic congestions. Of course, if you bring or if you're an e-commerce or you are a non-e-commerce warehouse, you're doing a very different models in terms of how you do put away process. Are you going to do a chaotic put away process? Are you going to be more organized based on different put away types where you're going to store that product? But all that is very important and relevant for us, because now we can see the different congested areas. We can see heat maps to understand where these issues are happening, so we can take more actions and create tasks for moving items. And also at the same time, we can have better space utilization. We can understand where products are being picked from which areas more regularly. and what we need to do so we can avoid some of the situations that we were explaining before. And all that can be done because of the Oracle Autonomous Database and the Oracle Gen 2 infrastructure. For us, we're vendor hardware agnostic. We as a warehouse management system need to be able to connect to different assets in the warehouse, to different manufacturing sites, robotics. We have a very strong platform as a service, a service in our application, and also we help connecting with multiple IoT devices. So really, we really were built our Oracle Cloud WMS in having the ability to have multiple operational APIs, and we're building more and more operational APIs and more APIs across our application. That's really helping us to really be able to connect with multiple devices. We're able to connect with different AGVs. We've seen the automation of multiple warehouses, and all that real-time information can be done by our infrastructure and our database. So our approach to automation has been number one, running 100% of our application on the Oracle Gen 2, being able to give our customers the flexibility to be able to connect to different devices, completely agnostic, being able to innovate solutions and provide different design tools to our partners and SIs, being able to manage and understand large data sizes coming from multiple warehouses. So we have customers that are managing 80, 100, or 1,000 different warehouses globally. So we need to be able to capture that data, understand that data, and optimize and orchestrate not only what we're running within the warehouse, but we also need to orchestrate the data that they're using to fulfill those orders. So it's a lot of information that, again, we can do now thanks to the migration that we did to the Oracle Autonomous Database and the Oracle Gen 2 application. So our automation approach is really want to be a system of record for the modern warehouse. And we say that like that because we want to be able to orchestrate the dynamics between the different components of the warehouse. You can either robots, automation, MEG components, pick-to-light systems, etc. We want to be able to maintain that inventory visibility at all times. We want to be able to connect also in real time to IoT components. And again, we really need to have that appropriate understanding of the data and also understanding of all those very complex algorithms that we use. And really, here are some very exciting and stories from some customers that have been able to achieve multiple goals by moving to Oracle WMS Cloud. And one of customers like DP World or Fastenal or Nati, they all run in different regions. They all have different complexities. They all have different needs. And at the end of the day, they're all running on the same infrastructure. They're all running on the same application in our true SaaS WMS Cloud application, and using and leveraging the Oracle Gen 2 infrastructure and the Oracle Autonomous Database. So in summary, we want to continue enabling emerging technologies. That's very important. The data and the complexities that we're going to see in the markets are going to continue to expand. More and more disruptions are going to happen. We just don't know when or where. But again, we need to be able to understand the data. We need to be able to understand the data, understand our anomalies, manage our KPIs, and be able to, from there, build a very resilient supply chain. Innovation is something that needs to continue happening. That's why at Oracle, we're very serious about providing quarterly updates to our customers and provide new features and functions that are required to continue being agile and be able to provide to your customers the best solutions and that you can. We're very customer centric, and we want our customers to be like that. We need to be able to also help them understand and those different complexities within that logistic network they're running, so they can fulfill multiple channels, as we spoke at the beginning of the conversation today. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and then go to questions that you guys might have, and we can go from there.
Great. Thank you, Diego. Thanks for that. So let's go ahead and move into the Q&A portion of the program. Thanks for submitting your questions. We've had a handful. If you have any other questions, please do leave them below. I guess we can just open it up and start with the first one. So the first one, first question is, does Autonomous Database have the capability to restore autonomously in case of a database crash? And also, what is the database restoration point? I'll throw that over, I guess, to Iqbal, if you'd like to answer.
Sure. Yeah, the Autonomous Database has the built-in recovery capabilities in case of crash, and it has a resiliency to auto recover, like Diego was mentioning. That's one of the features, the self-healing feature, and it can recover from those crashes. And they also have a feature where you can have ADB team calls it and the Autonomous Data Guard. Those of you who have worked with Oracle, and Data Guard is a product that you can use to replicate databases, and that comes built in with the Oracle Autonomous Database. And once enabled, it can, in real time, it can sync your database with secondary system.
Cool, great, thanks, Iqbal. We've got a second question here. Is Logfire implemented for pharmaceutical companies having A-frame distribution? I'll throw that one over to Robbie.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, we have customers that are distributors of pharmaceuticals, and they leverage A-frames amongst other automated equipment to complete their fulfillment needs. So, and it's not just limited to pharmaceuticals, but primarily the distribution of pharmaceuticals uses A-frames.
Cool, great, thanks.
No, I was going to add, they're leveraging the APIs that we develop and continue enhancing. So we have a broad range of APIs, and like Diego said, through the Autonomous Database and the Gen 2, we have improved speed and performance that enable all these rich APIs to communicate to not just other host systems like ERP, but also to automation equipment.
Okay, great. Thanks, Robbie. Can either of you answer, Iqbal, maybe? Are there any noticeable performance improvements for transactions like, I don't know, search query performed in the UI?
Yeah, there's an overall system improvement when we gained with going with the Autonomous Database, comparing to managing systems on our own and the Postgres DB that we were using. I mean, we get some benefits of being on Oracle, but then autonomous, because it's a self-healing system, and it uses machine learning. As it learns the customer usage patterns, it can improve and tune the queries on its own. And the customers will notice, those who have used prior to our migration to Autonomous Database, they will see noticeable difference between when we were on the Postgres architecture versus we are on the Autonomous Database.
Okay. Can you explain, I guess, Robbie, how you think how's the move to ATP propelled our customers' growth?
And I think Diego touched on a couple of those points, right? We've had a lot of performance improvement in the application, also improvement in the speed of processing data for integration, which is key as a lot of the customers move to more robotics, right? So move more from the traditional automation to more robotics. We've also had the ability to do the zero downtime, which is key for our application as we continue to develop and release new features that are key to keeping up with today's trends. You want to have those updates and new features instantly, which 2.5 minutes average is key, or very close to instant. So those are just some of the high-level benefits that our customers have seen from the move to the Autonomous Database.
Right. And Diego, one of the questions that came for you, and I think you touched on this as well, was whether or not you're seeing the same momentum in delivery volume in 2021 as you'd seen before.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we definitely have seen huge momentum as well in 2021. If you see the year-over-year graph that we track to understand how not only how the application is performing, but also how the market is performing. We have seen tremendous growth in 2021, and that trend that started back in May of last year has not stopped. That's why, as I explained, since May of last year to date, we have seen more than 2,000 warehouses being started and used by our customers and expand their logistics networks in multiple regions. So it's not just something that we're seeing in one particular region. We're seeing this growth globally, and we're seeing this change in consumer behavior globally. It's not just related to a specific industry or a specific region. So that's what is exciting, because every region will come and bring their own caveats of disruptions. So having a true cloud SaaS application that can really manage all those very challenging requests is very exciting. So again, we could have not done this without the infrastructure that we have today and the power of the Oracle Autonomous Database.
Okay. And I don't know if this one would be for you or for someone else on the team, but I do remember us having these conversations. What were the issues that we were having with the Amazon Relational Database services?
Let me take that one. So one of the number one issue that we had with the autonomous the RDS service that Amazon has, they call it automated, and that, just like Diego said, it's automated doesn't mean autonomous. RDS has hundreds of parameters that we have to tune on our own to get the performance, and you really need to have DBA level expertise and hire DBAs to manage all those parameters, even though you are running an automated system. That was one of the issues. You still have to tune a lot of parameters to get the best performance for the application. The other issue was upgrades and patches, and they will give you a time window or a weekend or at your own will whenever you want to upgrade or apply patches. But that causes disruption. I mean, you cannot just call your entire application stack to be ZDT, zero downtime, if one of the components like database goes down and then you have to maintain. And with autonomous database and OCI, we have this that all our application stack, including the infrastructure and database, are ZDT. So we don't get disruptions when maintenance are being done.
And just a quick to complement, thank you, Iqbal, very much for taking that question. But just to complement what Iqbal said, before our migration, we used to have a dedicated team of DBAs. Today, we don't have that. So that's the power of the autonomous database as well. So just wanted to highlight that.
And one of the questions comes back was, does the autonomous database have the capability to restore? Oh wait, I think I've asked that one, right? Like, what is the DB restoration point? Yeah, we've got that. Well, I think, let me see here. If we've got any more open questions, we do. Do the built-in machine learning algorithms have the capability to identify processes such as transactions, SP functions, etc.? And do those cause DB locks? And how will the autonomous database react to database lock situations?
It does. I mean, yeah, the machine learning capabilities of autonomous database definitely helps us with those locking mechanisms. And they have certain algorithms built in that can optimize. They have resource managers, and now the auto indexing, that the feature that you may have heard, it can optimize your query on fly, and based on the machine learning, it can improvise and improve over time as your queries and usage patterns are learned.
And can someone talk about whether or not the DB will monitor the API requests and log them for analysis?
It does monitor all the requests, and they have autonomous database has tools. One of the major tools that is available within the autonomous database is called Performance Hub. That's where you can go and analyze, dig deep into the query that is running, get your query plan, and pinpoint if you have any application bottleneck, you can go and improve it.
And Diego, how has the move to OCI impacted the latency challenges of running a warehouse control equipment interface to the WMS?
Well, just talking from our customer point of view, correct? What we have seen because of the migration is a 55% increase in order processing speeds. Okay, we have seen an increase of the warehouse utilization. It doesn't mean that there are more users, but we're seeing more transactions, more requests, because we're processing a lot of automations, and a lot of customers will have different level of complexities within a warehouse, correct? So if you think about how Gartner will evaluate a warehouse complexity from level 1 to level 5 being the most complex type of warehouse, more than 60% of our customers are in the level 4, level 5. And that is not a coincidence. It's really because they're seeing the benefits on how our infrastructure, our database, and the benefits that they're seeing in terms of response times, regardless that we are in a data center in the US and our customers are in Chile, or if we are in a data center or a customer is running their warehouse and the automation in Africa or the US or China. It doesn't matter really. And also because as I mentioned before, we are leveraging the global footprint that the Oracle Gen 2 infrastructure has, and we're expanding and getting closer and closer to our customers. And that's very important too, because there's a lot of requirements from our customers to be closer in region. And we're doing that not only to continue providing them an increase in order processing, but also because we want to make sure that we align with their business needs.
Great. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today's session. Before everyone goes, thank you guys for answering the questions. Before everyone goes, we're going to do a quick poll. If you liked this webinar, we would ask that you found it useful. We would encourage you to encourage a colleague to watch, and also to please give us a 10. We hope you heard something today that will move your business forward. And if you have any additional questions that didn't get answered, please feel free to send us a note to the email address you'll see on the screen. We'll be following up in the next 48 hours, as I said, with a link to the webinar replay, a PDF of the presentation, and a link to view a list of upcoming Oracle at Oracle webinars. So thank you all for joining, and we hope to see you again soon virtually in another Oracle at Oracle webinar. Thank you so much. Thanks, team.
Thank you so much. Bye.